That was such a missed opportunity to wipe away some of the things from the first half of the season. And now I just think we know what this team is. We know what a lot of their issues are. And the good news is that, yeah, they're in an incredibly flawed league.
Amateur Hour Chiefs Podcast. Amateur Hour Chiefs Podcast. Amateur Hour Podcast on KC Sports Network. Amateur on KC Sports Network. Hour on KC Sports Network. Podcast on KC Sports Net. We're gonna talk Chiefs football for you, and you, and you, and you.
What is this, amateur hour?
Yeah, I ain't no Superman businessman like you. You know, I'm just an
amateur,
I suppose.
Amateur hour
Is what's happening.
Amateur hour
Is what's happening.
Thanks for listening to KC Sports Network, proudly presented by Emprise Bank. If you're thinking about starting a business or know someone who is, check out Emprise Bank's SBA loans. It's always good to know your options, and they can be your partner in possible.
Yeah, that's right, folks. The show is called Amateur Hour. I'm Ryan Scott Hall. And joining me today for his annual appearance on Amateur Hour while his darkness is on vacation, it is the one, the only, Joshua Brisco. Joshua, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much for having me. I cannot wait to put on the amateur hat that I so desperately desire. And just to talk to you about anything is always good. Talk to you about Chiefs in podcast form, always exciting. Talking to you this week. Wish I would have drawn a different straw, for being honest. You asked me about stepping in on this day and date well before Chiefs Broncos, and I thought it might be more fun than it's probably going to be today, and I'd like to apologize for making the Chiefs lose.
Well, I'm certainly not going to lay the blame at your feet for the Chiefs losing. They've done plenty of losing on their own without you, Joshua. I do, though. Look, I'm all about transparency here at Amateur Hour. And folks, I got to tell you, it's been a hell of a ride since Sunday. Every minute since Sunday has been this like challenge of, can I do my job or be a husband, be a father, any of these number of roles that I have in my life, while also feeling the way that I feel and thinking the things that I'm thinking about my football team. Trying to do those things simultaneously has been really, really challenging. And, as a result, my notes are a mess. They're all over the place. They're as scatterbrained as the Chiefs game plan was on Sunday. And on top of that, Joshua, you told me, now look, who knows how these things get released and what, so on and so forth. You are coming off of back-to-back shows.
Yeah, this is my three-peat. This is my third swing at Chiefs Broncos just in the day that we are recording this, not counting the other times I've talked about this game already. So no, I will say I think that has helped me get a little closer to peace with this game, and maybe I'll be able to share a little of that with you today.
I do think if you're going to use the three-peat analogy, it's probably a fair one. We may come up short today.
I will come up short.
Look, now normally at the top of these shows, we start with Dirk's big thing. And as we've joked in the past, I do not have a big thing. In fact, today I'm going to have instead a final thing. I've decided that I'm going to have a last word today before we go to put a bow on everything, but I'm not going to start with some big monologue today because I just don't have it. There's too many things that I think about this game that it's very, very difficult for me to figure out where to start. So I guess this is where I've landed, Josh. The Broncos were better on Sunday. They also have 4 more wins than the Chiefs do, and the Chiefs have 7 games remaining in the schedule. And I don't think Denver's very good. I don't think that they're very good in terms of like the full 3 phases and the coaching staff and all that. When I look at that team from top to bottom, I'm just like, they're fine. But I'm not scared of the Denver Broncos. They don't strike fear into my heart at all. And I think the thing that sucks about that is not only that they were thoroughly outplayed and feels like pretty thoroughly outcoached against this team that I don't think is very good on Sunday. But the Chiefs have had too many mistakes already in this season, which is why they're at 510 games into the year. And really, I think the scariest part, the part that I can't seem to shake, that has been the thing I keep going back to in my mind, is that my feelings about the Broncos are exactly what they want me to feel. Because I took the time for the first time in many years, because this game felt so important. I took the time to listen to the post-game press conferences from everybody that got to the podium. And I'll tell you what, that entire team is steering into nobody believes in us, and we're canceling out all the outside noise, and it doesn't matter what you guys think about Bo Nix. He's our quarterback, and we're going to win games, and so on and so forth. And honestly, Joshua, tell me if I'm wrong. This is where we'll start today. Are they incorrect in that? Like, do you believe in the Broncos? Because I just simply do not. And so when they say nobody believes in us, that's what they are telling themselves. That's the story that Denver has. Are they right?
I thought going into this game, in that very question of do you believe in the Broncos, I think I probably said this in some recorded medium, so there's probably a receipt about this somewhere. I think I said I completely believe in the Broncos' ability to beat the Kansas City Chiefs in a regular season football game, be it Sunday or Christmas. Completely believe in that. I absolutely believe in the Broncos' ability to beat any of these teams they'll face in the regular season the rest of the way, and that at the first opportunity to pick against the Denver Broncos in the playoffs, I will do it. And I will do it in the second round if that's what it takes, and I will do that until I believe that they have the capacity to operate at a Super Bowl contending level, which to me, that's the upper echelon of belief, right? I would put the Colts in a similar place, but this is where it gets interesting to me. So that was before the game. I'll spoil it now and I'll tell you. After Chiefs Broncos, I feel almost exactly the same. I think that the Broncos are a good, flawed football team. That's their bad news, and maybe it's good news for the Chiefs. The good news for the Broncos and the bad news for the Chiefs is that I don't think anyone in the AFC stands above that right now. This is both my optimism to sell to fans listening, hoping for a Chiefs resurgence. If the Chiefs get into the fight in the playoffs, I think they're about as likely as anybody to string together 2 or 3 better than expected games and be there near the end. The Broncos or Colts or Patriots or whoever, 2 of those teams have to make the AFC Championship game. And so I still, in the spirit of your question, I still don't believe in the Denver Broncos in this iteration. I still don't believe in Bo Nix. But I don't know if I believe in anybody right now, because I said earlier this season, it's aged pretty well. Everybody's the Chargers this year. Everyone has a relatively high ceiling and a relatively low floor. And on a week-to-week basis, we've seen virtually every result you could ask for this NFL season. And so I don't know. I am the most agnostic I've ever been 11 weeks into an NFL season.
On show number 3 in a 6-hour block of time, what do you feel like you've, I don't know, realized? What clarity has come to you? Through 2 shows, you said that you're finding your piece.
Yeah.
Is it that piece that like, well, I'm still not going to pick against the Chiefs until they're mathematically eliminated? The Chiefs are the most dangerous team in the AFC. Is that what helps you sleep the last couple nights?
Yeah, and then I think it's the acceptance of the downside of it that I'll give you as well. But I do think that's the upshot now, where you go, okay, there's no doubt whatsoever about who this team is. They're 500 after week 11. They're the 9 seed in the AFC. There is a ton of work to do, both like in the team itself and in the path to the playoffs. And the underlying stats are good enough that we should actually acknowledge where this team has had success this year. But in its own way, that makes it all the more frustrating. I think the place that I have found peace in just simple acceptance is just the remarkable missed opportunity that game in Denver was. Because the reason that I had more hope and more optimism and more excitement and more belief before the Broncos game, because by winning that game, the Chiefs could completely negate the lows of this season. Hey, yeah, we entered this game 5-4, but now we're 6-4. We're chasing the Broncos, and the Broncos are hearing footsteps. If the Broncos are hearing your footsteps, you may already be in first. I think they would have been the betting favorites in the AFC West if they would have beaten the Broncos. And now they feel so firmly cemented behind Denver that it's just a totally different type of season the rest of the way here. It is a matter of scoreboard watching, sure, but it's not going to matter unless the Chiefs play better and win more games, which I know is like incredibly simplistic, but it's just the fact of it now. So I have accepted the incredible, like, they lost 2 games on Sunday. Maybe 2.5 if you want to start doing some of the divisional math things. That was such a missed opportunity to wipe away some of the things from the first half of the season. And now I just think we know what this team is. We know what a lot of their issues are. And the good news is that, yeah, they're in an incredibly flawed league because there are like 25 teams who I really think on a week-to-week basis could be anybody. The Browns on QB 3-4 were hanging around with the Ravens, who have now evened up with the Chiefs at 5-5. The Jags the Jaguars beat the Chiefs, lost a bunch of games with a win over the Raiders in the middle, and then boat raced the Chargers on Sunday. What does that tell you about the Jags or Chargers? I don't know. All I know is that the Jags and Chargers and Chiefs and Ravens and Texans, those teams are in a bucket, and a couple of them have to make the playoffs.
I don't think this is about other teams catching the Chiefs. I mean, that might be part of it. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and pretend like no one has gotten better, since Patrick Mahomes entered the league or whatever. He's not playing very well, though, man. I mean, that's not a holistic. He hasn't played well this year. Certainly over the last couple of weeks. The last 2 games for Patrick Mahomes are among the worst. And maybe the statistics don't fully back up the Broncos game the way that they did in the Bills game. And it was just, a bright neon sign. This is the worst game Patrick Mahomes has ever played. That'd be a big sign, but you got it. But man, it feels like the reason that the Chiefs are coming up short is because the dude that has been invincible for so long has maybe lost a little bit of that magic. And I don't, it was extremely difficult for Mahomes to just like lose a game in the playoffs. Right. And all of the different like little things that have happened along the way where it's like, wait, Patrick Mahomes can lose divisional games. And now this year it's going to be Patrick Mahomes can lose the division. I mean, we might be looking at Patrick Mahomes can miss the playoffs or can for the first time in his career, mischief came. You know, there's a lot about what he has done that has been so remarkable that allows me to not panic at the mention of all of these maybe what, you know, could be missed opportunities in front of them. And I don't want, it's really hard to thread the needle between, I believe that Patrick Mahomes needs to be held more accountable than I think that he is collectively being held accountable, like in the public eye, but also not wanting to hurt the one man who has brought joy to our lives in a way that like we could never repay. You know, it's like, but this isn't just any one thing, but Patrick Mahomes has always been the most important piece. And it's really hard to win football games when he played the way that he played against the Bills. And ultimately, I think it's kind of hard to win football games when he played the way he played against the Broncos. And I'm going to expand on that right after this break.
I'm Brett Goodwin, one of the owners of The Learning Tree. The Learning Tree is a neighborhood toy store in Prairie Village, Kansas. This has been here in this location since 2000s, and my husband Alan and I purchased the store in 2023. Alan and I grew up in families where we've always wanted to have a business together. Alan grew up, for instance, his parents had a jewelry store. I worked in a local toy store here in Prairie Village when I was growing up. When this opportunity happened in 2023, we knew right away we wanted to contact them and pursue the store. We wouldn't have been able to get the store without the team at Emprise Bank. From the day we contacted them, they knew what we needed to do, which was very helpful. I would absolutely recommend the team at Emprise Bank to anyone looking to secure a business. We worked with Emprise from day one. They were extremely helpful. They were always great resources. We talk to them frequently. They know the area. They're very friendly. We know who we're going to talk with, and they know what we need to do. We hope we'll see you at the Learning Tree.
Chiefs Kingdom, what is your favorite touchdown? By now, you guys already know that my favorite touchdown is the next one, because with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL, every touchdown could bring you closer to cashing in. From first touchdown score to anytime touchdown props or the thrill of live in-game betting, every snap is loaded with opportunity. You want spreads? They got it. Over-unders? DraftKings got you covered. Same-game parlays, regular parlays? DraftKings has it, and you need it. And here's the best part. New customers bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets instantly. Your team hitting pay dirt pays out to you. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code KCSN. That's code KCSN for new customers to turn $5 into $300 in bonus bets if your bet wins. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, pass-through per wager tax may apply in Illinois. 21 plus age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bet must win to receive bonus bets, which expire in 7 days. Minimum odds required. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio. Limited time offer.
Hey, we're back. So listen, Joshua, I said I was going to expand on this idea here that our Kansas City Chiefs, boy, they just seem to fail at every single turn with this game against the Broncos. And I've got a few things. There's like I don't know if it's a game, Joshua. I don't know if that's what I would call it. But there's a segment that His Darkness and I have done, not many times over the years, but enough times that people generally ask for it after a game like this. And it's who you mad at. And I don't know who. I mean, there's a lot of people that I could potentially put on this list, but the way that I was thinking about this is more of a what am I mad at?
Yeah.
And so here's the first thing that I'm mad at coming out of the Chiefs Broncos game. I'm mad at slow starts, and I'm really mad because per Matt Nagy, this was an emphasis over the bye week. He mentioned that against the Bills, they had a 3-and-out to start both the first and second half. When they got their first possession of each half, they did nothing with it. And to come out of your offensive coordinator's mouth unprompted, hey, this is something that we're thinking about. Cool. That means that you guys have been talking about it for 2 weeks, right? Well, the first possession of this game against the Denver Broncos was a 4-and-out. They got a first down on first down and then went 3-and-out. To start the second half, that coveted possession to start the second half after you defer, they drive down the field and throw an interception. And look, man, like if this is how you're going to start halves against competitive football teams, number one, you're going to make me mad. I am mad at you. I'm mad at the slow starts, but it's just, you're just putting yourself in a really difficult position to win, man. And I really think that the Chiefs have struggled on opening possessions, in both halves, really throughout the season, but, we're looking at back-to-back games that have felt important as far as seeding, and overall confidence of this team. And the Chiefs have gone from 5-3 to 5-5 and in some of the worst possible ways that you could imagine. And I think that it starts quite literally with the beginning of each half and how they've just completely fizzled out. They've done, like, at least to start the second half against the Broncos, they were able to, string a drive together a little bit, but then Mahomes ends up, I don't even know what he was doing on that play. I think he just lost him, it seemed like.
The opening drive is such a fascinating, frustrating little microcosm too, because that was twice, like a few inches away from being the hottest start this team has had all season. If that ball lands in Xavier Worthy's hands, if it lands in Tyquan Thornton's hands, you're talking about not only a hot start, a quick strike touchdown drive out of the bye. Ooh, look at Andy Reid's first 15 out of the bye. It's also telling Bo Nix, hey, buddy, you were only going to score 6 points this half in this alternate reality where neither of the guys catch it. Play catch up now, Denver. Sean Payton, play catch up with Bo Nix. I kind of liked the idea behind that, but I'll probably take the very, very hard role of the guy that's going to defend Patrick Mahomes in a minute. But if Patrick Mahomes hits either of those passes, the game changes instantly and completely, and he couldn't make that connection on either of those throws.
Patrick ended up in this game 3 of 12 for 92 yards on throws that traveled over 10 yards. That's not what you want. One of the big ones there, the 61-yarder to Tyquan Thornton, the other two completions. I don't know if the Travis Kelce touchdown was thrown over 10 yards. Honestly,
I think it was.
It was. But the Chiefs, you're right that if he hits either of those deep shots on the opening drive, that it completely changes the texture of the game. And who knows what happens. This is where I think that most people, myself included, probably are feeling that frustration, is that I just never really felt like the Chiefs found any semblance of control at
Absolutely.
all. And it's like, even when they took the lead, when it's 19-16, I didn't feel like we were winning. I'm like, well, it certainly did not feel safe. One of the biggest differences, I think, between this Chiefs team, as I was like looking through the team stat box score, literally just box score scouting, but like just trying to see, how did these, when the dust settles, what do the teams look like, pitted up against each other? And it's really even. Like, honestly, some of the numbers are comically even. It's like 30 seconds of time of possession difference between them. It couldn't be more 50-50 in a lot of ways. But here are some differences. 2 third downs, or 4 if you like. But the Chiefs, I believe, were 5 of 13, and Denver was 7 of 15 on third down. Neither team like particularly great on third down. But the difference between the two, literally in that box score, these 2 third downs, and here are Denver's last 2 third downs, the 3rd and 15 and the 3rd and 6. I mean, don't even do I need to dig into the 3rd and 15? We've been on the other end of it so many times that I can only, I now know how other people feel.
Right.
I'm beside myself. So you're like 3rd and 15, fellas. And then the 3rd and 6, and I don't even know what that coverage was. It's the play that Bolden couldn't quite make, but also seemed like he shouldn't have been asked to. I don't understand what happened on that, and I haven't had the benefit of a rewatch. But those are the last 2 third downs for Denver that took them from 5 to 7. And the Chiefs' last 2 third downs that prevented them from getting to 7 is the 3rd and 2 pass to Brashard Smith. And, we might debate that until the cows come home about Brashard Smith needing to just settle.
Right.
Like decide.
It seems like that's what Mahomes wanted him to do there. I don't know, but
help Patrick out, be quarterback friendly in some type of way. But then also on their final offensive play of the game, a sack on 3rd and 10. Yeah. The execution on third down is a big thing in almost every game. And seeing just these 2 third downs that Denver ends up completing in what feel like such improbable ways. And then at least the 3rd and 2, where it's like, God, it was right. You had it. It was right there, despite all of the challenges and the ugly displays in this game. Still in Chiefs fashion this season, right there at the end, but not making the plays that it takes to win. John, what do you make of that? Is there anything like, have you gotten some, oh my gosh, well, the Chiefs went from 12-0 in 1-score games to 0-5. Like, what does it mean? Is it just regression? Like, is that all we can say about it?
I know it's so like you're literally like setting me up for the disappointing answer, but I think it's true. Like a ton of it's luck. A ton of it is the little things where you flip a coin 1,000 times and you're going to have a stretch where sometimes it'll be, you'll have 70 out of 70 heads and 30 tails and 100, but over 1,000, you're probably going to end up pretty close to 500. So I think that there's a little bit of that, or a little bit of just like that when, and again, I know that no one enjoyed hearing this last year when people would be like, yeah, the Chiefs are winning these close games, but in incredibly unlikely ways from a statistical perspective. Like maybe there's a skill to this, but there's also certainly a luck factor to this. Yeah. They've gotten unlucky in several of those circumstances. And like, even with this game, and I'm sure we'll keep talking about it, but even with this game, the defense gave the ball back to the Chiefs offense at the end of the game. They had 3rd down stops that we desperately were begging for to give the ball back to Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid and say, hey, this is the deal we've made this entire dynasty, is give us the ball back, tied, down 3, up 3, give us the ball back and we'll figure it out. And so the defense did answer that until the real 3rd effort on that, and they finally break. So I think that on the defensive side, and this is also kind of a bummer, unfair time because he was very good in Denver, you've had less of that late game takeover stuff from Chris Jones. He's just been less of that stone cold closer that he's been in years past. He was very good against Denver, though, so again, that's kind of a weird time to bring that up. And then you do have a couple of those individual plays that swing games. I mean, when you talk about like penalties or the close game things or when focus and concentration, Nate talked about that a lot on Only Weird Games. I thought it was pretty interesting. But a bunch of it is execution. And like, I'll rattle off some of these and you can just tell me to stop when you've heard enough penalties or whatever. but it's the early misses from Mahomes. Maybe that's setting up a blowout win. If you're up 7-0 and Bo Nix forces a pick and all of a sudden you're up 14-0 in a way you're never going to be after. Getting into the red zone on the second and third possessions and kicking not one, but two 31-yard field goals. You're at the 2-yard line with Kareem Hunt, but Juwan Taylor's lined up illegally, and it's basically a 20-yard penalty overall because it's a 5-yard penalty and you lose a 15-yard game there. So instead of 1st and goal from the 2, Mahomes ends up getting picked off on 3rd and 14. You have so many of these instances where you go, oh no, this is a touchdown drive, or like the 2nd and 2 shotgun handoff to Kareem Hunt that lost a yard that set up 3rd and 3, and then it's the Brashard Smith play. I'm sorry. That's the Mahomes rollout right and the throwaway that never had a chance on 3rd and 3. You have all of these individual instances that are very nitty gritty because you're in this position because of this player doing this thing, getting called for this penalty, but you add all of that up and you have enough of those at unfortunate times and it turns a touchdown into a field goal or a touchdown into an interception, and it's incredibly hard to dig out of that. So I do feel like you can rightfully say there's like a little bit of the mystique, a little bit of the glitter of the like fourth quarter, I assume they'll figure it out stuff has kind of fallen away. One thing that was also good in Denver, Mahomes to Kelsey just worked. And Kelsey's been really good this year, but that means we also haven't really seen that baton handoff to Rashee Rice these last couple weeks. That might have been his worst game as a pro on Sunday, or at least since he earned the role that he's had in this offense. So you just have enough of those things lining up at the same time, and a team that should probably be 7-3 is 5-5, and a 7-3 Chiefs team right now, a team that just simply beats the Jags and wins one of those games in the first 2 weeks, where Xavier Worthy doesn't get injured, or the Travis Kelce pop up that would have been a touchdown turning into a pick against the Eagles. Take one of those games, take the Jags game, and we're talking about, 7-3 is not bad at all, even though you were 7-1, I guess, before losing to the Bills and Broncos in this situation. The margins are so thin, and we would be talking about them completely differently.
It's really interesting, too. As part of listening to those post-game press conferences, one of the things that really became a trend in hearing what like Denver's side of that game was, they really felt like they got robbed last year with the game at Arrowhead ending on a blocked field goal. Yeah. And the second time that we played them, they took their frustrations out on our backups and, won 38-0 or whatever it was. And then Sean Payton makes, the snide remarks about thinking that if they got the Chiefs in the playoffs and got to play them a third time, that they felt really good about their chances. And I got to tell you, man, the way that they talked about like how poetic it was that it came down to another kick and this time it goes in, and the plays that were made in the fourth quarter of this game that weren't made in the last one. How about this? 2 moments that really jump out in my mind in terms of game-changing plays. And for whatever reason, I don't know if I was just in an alternate universe, I did not realize that they both happened in the fourth quarter. Both major special teams gaffes in the fourth quarter. Blocked extra point and the big return for Marvin Mims that set up a 19-yard game-tying field goal drive. They got 1 first down and were able to tie the game because of a return that Dave Toub's special teams allowed. And again, both of those things happened in the fourth quarter. I got to tell you, bud, like as much as I hate the Broncos and have my entire life, my whole life, one of the first things I was taught when I was being taught things is we hate this team, and particularly number 7, because we can't seem to beat them. One of my most vivid childhood memories is at like 9 years old, the Mile High Miracle with Joe Montana driving him down at the end on Monday Night Football against Captain Comeback himself. And so we line up against this Broncos team who I don't think is good, and we play them tight the entire game. It's back and forth. Nobody's ever up by like more than 3 points. And then it comes down to the end, and we think that our quarterback is the Terminator, and we got the best coach ever. And who out executes them but fucking Bo Nix? Like, I mean, it has been, it's been hard to swallow, man. It's been really hard to swallow. And honestly, man, I think what is really eating at me is like, this is Denver's blueprint. They basically called it. Anybody hear what Sean Payton said standing on the sideline at halftime? They're a first half team. They're a first half team. We feel really confident. This is playing into our hands. Like, he straight up told you, we're going to win this game in the fourth quarter. And they went out and fucking did it. Like, that is a very confident team. They know exactly who they are. They know what they're good at. And you can't say that about the Kansas City Chiefs right now. I'm sorry, you can't.
No, you're 100% right. That the sort of lack of an identity there is the thing that might be the most jarring, is that a team with all these players and with these future Hall of Fame coaches, that they don't have a real particular identity to speak of. And look, I want to hit this while we're kind of in the big picture thing, but I also, none of this is an excuse, which I want people to also keep in mind as I blather on. The Chiefs should have been treating this like a playoff game. I don't know if they were. Maybe they were and just didn't work out. But, God, there are a lot of other teams' so-called Super Bowls on these schedules. And I kind of shy away from this is the Bills Super Bowl kind of thing, because I think it can be kind of derogatory in a way that's not very helpful. And it does give the Chiefs a little bit of an excuse. Sometimes like, well, yeah, but I mean, they were more like dialed in for this game. And when you have a little wiggle room, but maybe that's something that comes into your mind a little bit. Where like week one meant more to the Chargers being able to start their season with a win over the Chiefs. And, the Chiefs, that was a tough loss, but it's week one. The Eagles, obviously, they've got a win over the Chiefs recently last year that I don't need to talk about. Going to Jacksonville on Monday Night Football, that was Duval County's NFL showcase of the first half of the season. They had been winning games. They've been creating turnovers. We are going to bring the county to this football game, and we're going to show the world that we're for real. And we can prove that. We couldn't prove that against the Texans or the Colts or the Titans or anybody else in the AFC on Monday Night Football, but you can prove it if you knock off the Chiefs. And they do. And for the Chiefs, that was Monday. It was another game in the regular season. The Bills do this every year, and the Broncos seem to have more vitriol in that game. Everything you just laid out there, it still felt like that game meant more to what the Broncos wanted to do because they had baggage from last year. The Chiefs don't have baggage. The Chiefs have the standings, right? They have unbelievable success and the path forward. None of that is excusable, but it is a part of this story that I find really, really fascinating, because when you have opportunities to answer, like they did against the Lions, and other like, hey, okay, we just lost to the Jags. That was embarrassing. Lions are good, but they're injured. What can we do there? The Chiefs have maybe their most impressive win of the season. All of that comes back around to say, at 5-4, coming out of the bye, the Broncos got, no pun intended, the Broncos got their horses out of the gate much cleaner and much faster than yours did. And that's the type of thing that ends a season early, or that sends you to a wild card line instead of winning your 10th consecutive AFC West. Sustained success like that is unbelievably hard to do. And it's a pretty shining example of what it looks like when what you expect to happen just doesn't quite click into place.
Let's take a break.
Shop Chiefs tickets and more with no fees. Plus, save big with code KCSN at ticketsforless.com, the official ticket provider of KC Sports Network.
All right, guys, I know it's been a tough few days, but we're still Chiefs fans. And as a Chiefs fan, you should and could be on the field at the 50 inside of Arrowhead on GEHA Field for the official coin toss at a Chiefs home game this season. If you visit Chiefs.com/GEHA, you can enter to win a chance to be on the field for a once-in-a-lifetime view of the pregame coin toss. Plus, you can score other exclusive prizes. Enter for a chance to win at Chiefs.com/GEHA. And naturally, GEHA is a proud partner of your Kansas City Chiefs. Joshua, dude, I'm
mad at.
Yeah, who are you mad at? Yeah,
Special teams. Go ahead, you can keep talking if you want. I need to just shout it.
Yeah.
You mentioned it, and my gears started turning, man. What do you do? What do you do well? What do you do during the week? What's the pivot? The special teams have been so poor all season, and I really don't know. Like, I mean this. Like, I literally don't know what a special teams coordinator does Monday through Saturday. Dave Tobe's also the assistant head coach. Like, I know when he talks on Thursdays, and he always gets talked about as like one of the best in the business, whatever. Harrison Butker obviously just has like a total short circuiting in the first act of the season, and sort of figures it out some, and then he has his kickoff errors. There's the blocked PAT. I know Mims is excellent. Every kick return in that game felt like a threat. That was also true against a good unit, a good special teams unit, and a good return man in Jacksonville. There's no real juice in the return game. I think Tyquan Thornton and Brashard Smith back there is an interesting duo. But Nico Remigio is the trusted guy. He just doesn't quite have the top end thing. They have special teamers. Jack Cochran is making like $2 million against the salary cap this year. I'm going to have to give you the actual guys here. I did this on Monday's edition of Everything Else with Joshua Brisco, which you can get wherever you get your podcasts. How about that? That's an amateur plug. Jack Cochran, $2.08 million against the cap this year. That's more than Jerry Tillery. Just in terms, like, thinking about like guys they signed, Elijah Mitchell and Jerry Tillery are vets on a 1-year deal. Jack Cochran's making more money this year. Brian Cook, at the end of his rookie deal, he's making less money than Jack Cochran this year. Rasheed Rice. It's once you get into the rookie contracts, it's less. Juju Smith-Schuster's making 1.2. Jack Cochran's making basically 2.1. There have been other guys in the Chiefs special teams who go on and have good careers elsewhere as special teams aces. I feel like there's always one of those that pops up here or there. I don't know if they shouldn't have let Swayze Bozeman go. I don't know. I feel like I heard Zane Anderson's name sometime last week. So I don't know if we're talking about needing to find the new Marcus Kemp, or if something has really affected Butker and or Tobe with the new kickoff evolutions. I don't know if they're not. I know they practice it. Like, I know that it's like, and like, that's not flippant. Like, I think they spend more time on special teams than some other teams do, if memory serves. That might be apocryphal, so don't quote me on that. But like, that's a real part of what they're doing in training camp, and especially this year, where Butker was getting in early every day to get extra kicking time, and they're working on the new rules and all of that. It's just one of those instances where the results have been so bad that I'm curious about the process, because I just don't have a great explanation. Where you've got the kicker you'd like, you've got the punter you like, you've got several guys who are here for special teams purposes. Tobe's never terribly like revealing during his press conferences, and again, I don't know what he says other than like, yeah, I'd like for Harrison Butker to make his kicks, right? Like, I don't know that that's a coaching issue, but if you're like, hey, can you make sure that all of your players are in the headspace they need to be in? I genuinely don't know, and I would love to have like a truth serum conversation with Tobe about it, because I'm actually curious about how those pieces work together. But what I have seen from the Chiefs special teams this year has been poor, and it was poor again against Denver.
It used to be an edge, and it's not anymore. They have, it used to be, well, the Chiefs have the highest paid kicker in the NFL, and it was because he was, absolute nails whenever it mattered, and had the strongest leg in the league. Right. Now we have the most overpaid kicker in the league. That's where we're at. And I look at the return game where they used to put Tyreek Hill out there just to force the punter to shank one.
Right.
And I don't know. I mean, look, I like Nico. I think I like
great story
as a talisman and as a story than as an actual football player. But like, they don't know who their best returner is. And so they're putting different people out there and they're trying different things. I think that Ariza is probably their best special teamer. That's like Winchester doesn't qualify. I guess
right. He's not a special teamer. He's James Winchester, and that hasn't changed for a decade. And that is a compliment to him.
Yeah, it really feels like anytime that they return a kick, there's just going to be a penalty, and half the time when they're covering a kick, there's going to be a penalty. I mean, honestly, the way that the Chiefs special teams feels, I don't know if other teams feel it too, because like it used to not feel this way. And part of me says maybe the NFL is going to be post special teams, like in the nearer future than we think.
I agree.
Because they're trying all this stuff, and I don't know if they're getting the outcomes that they want. I don't know. But it would suddenly, if you got rid of special teams, it would eliminate a lot of roster spots that have historically been a huge part of the NFL. And there are guys that would literally lose the opportunity to earn a career and earn that retirement for being a vested veteran and all those different things if special teams goes away. So I don't necessarily want that. But boy, the Chiefs special teams suck enough that I think about special teams going away being a good thing.
And here's where I'm at. I think there is going to be a fork in the road where you either move away from special teams at the NFL level and kind of the way you're inferring there, or you acknowledge that they are the most important they've ever been by a mile.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the scary thing this year, where we are in the midst of this new world in the NFL where a good kick return, or God forbid, a kick short of the landing zone, and now you are two pretty good offensive plays away from field goal range. Not one bomb, I mean, just like you get a first down and then one more little chunk play. You might not need 2 first downs, but the kicking balls the way that they are, where the rules on that have changed, kickers' legs keep getting stronger, and they're always bad kickers, but the good kickers in this league are better than they've ever been. Again, the range is extending, and you need less to get yourself into field goal range. I mean, again, it literally happened against the Broncos, but there are going to be, there've already been several games this year that have literally been good kick return, 1 first down, get your kicker out there. The Chiefs-Bills 13 seconds game would not have, it would have still been impressive. It would not have been half as impressive right now as it was when it actually happened, because we have changed field position so much. I like the dynamic kicks. I think the logic of that is very fun, and I enjoy it through and through. But this is the year where I think this might be the most important year for special teams in NFL history. I don't know this empirically, but I think it really might be, because right now the rules are aggressively pro special teams. And in a year where they've perhaps never been more important, the Chiefs special teams have maybe never been worse, at least going back to the like Sky Moore Muff season of just like literally turning the ball over in a way that's pretty dynamic. In this case, it's consistent penalties, poor return, poor coverage, missed kick, block kick.
I want to add on, I want to pile on the special teams conversation real quick. This is a different point, but whatever happened to you can't kick field goals against this team? Denver kicked 5 of them, and we never made them pay. Like, I don't know if Denver's defense is that good, but maybe so, because they're out there kicking 5 field goals against the Chiefs. 5 of them. And teams never used to be able, like, you can't settle for 3 against the Chiefs. People were saying that a couple weeks ago.
Yep.
And I mean, Denver's not scared to kick field goals, apparently. Andy mentioned that timely penalties hurt the team. And this was not on Sunday night in the moment. This was on Monday after he had I want to say good night's sleep. Maybe, I don't know. It's football season. Maybe he doesn't ever get a good night's sleep. But Andy had slept and sat at a microphone at like noon on Monday and said, well, you know, the timely penalties, it really hurt us. Okay, Andy, look, bud, I love you. I do. I love you. You're like a member of my own family. Your second and third best offensive plays were penalties.
That's true. That's a good point.
Like,
Yeah.
you had a 47-yard defensive pass interference on a 3rd and 20 in the 4th quarter.
Yeah.
Timely penalties hurt you?
Yeah,
buddy. The other one, a 40-yard DPI on Denver, was 2nd and 16 in the 1st quarter. You're lucky to be able to get a first down on that play, let alone the 40-yarder that ultimately ended up putting you into range where you were going to kick a field goal. I just, honestly, man, I don't think they have answers. Like, that's where we are. I don't think that they have answers for what's going wrong. They're just plugging away and trying to do the same old stuff and saying, well, it's going to come around because we've got Patrick and we've got Andy and we've got Butker and we've got Chris Jones. We have all the ingredients. The ingredients are still here. And we're rubbing the same two sticks together, and it's not making sparks the way that it used to. And so that is why people are like, bro, this is stale. You need to hire somebody from outside the organization. You can't use the same answers over and over. And honestly, it felt like both offensively and defensively that Denver was just so much more prepared for like what the Chiefs do. You know, when we talked to Craig over the bye week about the Bills game, he said it literally felt like the Chiefs in that Bills game were like playing the hits. Essentially, it was like, all right, it's 3rd and 7. What do we do on every 3rd and 7? And that's what we're gonna do. Like they did not break a single tendency the entire game. And if you are playing football like that with a guy that's been a head coach in the NFL for 30 years and has been coaching your team for, however many it is at this point now, I think Andy's up to this year 13 or something in Kansas City. Like, it's understandable that stuff might get a little bit stale. But this is where I start to genuinely worry. Spags blitzed 10 times against a quarterback that is terrified of being blitzed and is among the worst performers against the blitz that we may have ever seen. They got 2 pressures on 10 blitzes, man. And like, you always kind of expect Spags to have that one pressure at the end of the game. And boy, they did not have it. They didn't have it. And if they ran it, the Broncos knew what was coming and were able to block it up.
The first play of the game had that pressure. I think it was literally the first play, right? The Shamari Connor blitz.
Yeah. And that may have been the only time that they surprised Denver all game defensively. I don't know if I said this because I'm going 100 miles an hour, but in the postgame pressers, Bo Nix said that they hit the same play 3 or 4 different times for explosives. The same play. Now, maybe this is how it works. You're trying a bunch of different stuff and seeing how the opponent reacts. And if you find a play that works, then you call it again. And maybe it works again. And then you call it again. Maybe it works again. I mean, this is what the Chiefs' 4th down package has always looked like. But I'm sitting here. I go through and look at the explosive plays. Denver had 5 total. 3 came on 3rd downs. A 21-yarder to Sutton on 3rd and 11, another 20-yarder to Sutton on 3rd and 15, a 35-yarder to Franklin on 3rd and 8, and then they also have that 48-yarder to Bryant on 1st and 10 and the 32-yarder to Franklin that sealed the game on 2nd and 8. And I don't know how many of those plays are the same play, but like Bo Nix stood at the podium and said, we hit the same play on them 3 or 4 different times to 2 or 3 different receivers. And that for Denver's offense was the difference in the game. I mean, it was just the explosives. You look at the Chiefs side of things, the Chiefs had 2 explosive plays, 2 pass plays that went over. Actually, how about this? 2 plays that went over 20 yards. The Travis Kelce touchdown and the 61-yarder of the Thornton. Like, and they're hunting, we talked about how they missed them.
Even that was very early, to be fair. I do think they deserve credit for taking those shots early. Did you see Tyquan Thornton get another deep target until the one that landed? I don't know how many targets he ended the game with, but that was a first drive and a nearly desperation thing for those.
Can I ask you a question about Xavier Worthy?
Sorry, he was literally 2 targets for Tyquan Thornton, by the way. Yeah, ask me.
I don't know if you heard these stats. I went through some Tyquan Thornton stuff last week. He had 3 touchdowns in his first 5 games, and in his last 4 games, I guess leading into this one, he only had 3 targets. We saw, in his first 5 games, he averaged 5 receptions a game, and then in a 4-game stretch, he had 1 total catch. I want to ask you this question about Worthy, because I don't know if I'm the only person that feels this way. This is fully like Madden stuff, I guess. He will not be healthy this year. Xavier Worthy is not going to be 100% until he gets surgery on his shoulder, and he's playing like it. And so, to me, the Chiefs need to respond accordingly. Use him sparingly, scale back his snaps. He's not doing anything for you. He can't, his speed is not what it's supposed to be, because he can't chug his arms as fast as he wants to because his shoulder hurts. And he's got the ankle problem that's obviously limiting his movement and his explosiveness at the same time. Everything that makes Xavier Worthy dangerous is busted right now. He's no longer dangerous. And so to me, I just think you got to take him off the field. And especially when you have someone like Tyquan Thornton, who has shown that he has this rapport with Mahomes. And he not only showed that he has the ability to get to these deep balls, the only guy really since Tyreek that seems to consistently find the ball deep with Patrick Mahomes. That seems rare and important to me. And the Chiefs are not leaning into it enough. But on top of that, Tyquan Thornton also showed scramble drill stuff during that first opening stretch of 5 games. He and Mahomes, there is something there. And the Chiefs are not exploring it because they keep putting Xavier Worthy on the field, who is not affecting the game in the way that he is meant to, because he's not healthy. And I know that they probably are looking at but he's going out, he's tough, he's active. The training staff says he's ready to go. Xavier says he's ready to go. What am I supposed to do? Save him from himself, man. Put the best player on the field. Right now, it's not Xavier Worthy. And I know that is a hard thing to say, and I'm sure that it just doesn't work that way or whatever. That's why I say it feels like Madden. But he is very clearly not 100%. He's playing like he's not 100%, and it's hurting the football team. I believe that wholeheartedly. Does that resonate with you at all, Josh? Are you on the same page there?
I think the wide receiver depth chart and the rotation of how they use those guys, I think, is an absolutely fascinating thing. I just, out of a responsibility to my own heart, I just so desperately wish that pass on the first drive of the game goes into his hands, because I wonder what we're talking about then, right? But it didn't though, right? Maybe in training camp, that's exactly in the bucket, and he's a quarter step faster that far down the field, and so maybe that's connecting it all together. I still would like to see a relatively good-sized workload for Xavier Worthy, but not in the way that we've seen it so far. I think that's my pivot on it, is I am looking at the wide receiver room, and I'm hearing in my head the way that Andy Reid and Matt Nagy talked about it in training camp in St. Joe, talked about the deepest wide receiver room they've ever had, and then putting some of those pieces together, and obviously Worthy gets hurt, Thornton steps in, and we're going, oh, look, man, we got real stuff from Tyquan Thornton, which we may have never truly known if Xavier Worthy didn't get hurt, because I think obviously that's what forced him into action there. I'm at a point now where I do think it's totally reasonable to say that Tyquan Thornton is the Chiefs' best deep threat, because it's not just your straight line speed, which he has plenty of for what that's worth, but it's not just your straight line speed. It's what do you do to make your quarterback right when he misses, or what does your quarterback do in terms of trusting you to be at the right place at the right time. I'm still relatively bullish on Xavier Worthy, long term, maybe more so than the rest of this year, because it's just 3 snaps into the season, your shoulder gets separated. I mean, it's a terrible, terrible way to start your second year in the NFL. And I do think he deserves credit for being able to be as effective as he's been to this point. But I don't see, I don't see it between Patrick Mahomes and Hollywood Brown. I don't think that there is a tremendous amount of trust or chemistry there at this point, even though they had 2 off seasons together. Obviously, last season was derailed by injury there. I don't know if Hollywood's a different player than he was a year ago, if the chemistry just never worked out, or maybe it's always a matter of 6 inches off the football, and that changes how we talk about these guys completely. But I'll make it about Rashee Rice too, where again, like, that was a bad game for him in Denver. Buffalo, he was not a real factor. He was a role player in Buffalo, not a number one option. I don't know if that's Rice's play, if that's how the Chiefs are asking him to play, whatever. Spread it all around. Everyone deserves a little bit of blame. Everybody deserves a little bit of credit. But that all of the stuff you said about Worthy there, to me, predominantly just echoes in the fact that the wide receiver room has performed as less than the sum of its parts to this point. And that's also true for the offense altogether, or the offensive line. Last year's big problem, the offensive line's really good. Josh Simmons is back. He wasn't perfect against Denver, but my goodness, he is good, and you can see it. And Juwan Taylor's penalties are killing you. And that went away for like a month. He played his best month of football as a Chief, and then you get penalties against Buffalo and Denver again. All that to say, winding that road, I do think this is what bums me out, man. I was going to say, I do think it's time to recalibrate the wide receiver rotation and to really figure out who is do we have an alpha here, or are we role playing it out? Is Tyquan Thornton going to get more than 2 targets a game in desperation mode, or can we ask him to do a little bit more? Is Xavier Worthy a speedy deep threat, or can he do some more things in the intermediate range where Hollywood Brown is he was penciled in on that spot? Maybe Xavier Worthy gets a few of those opportunities, and then Hollywood's role decreases a little bit, Juju's role decreases a little bit, and just the things that happen when, as they say, everybody's got to eat. Right now, nobody's eating. This is a starving wide receiving group right now. And that, to me, like, honestly, I don't know if I care all that much how they get to that point. And I should, like, I'd love to be able to tell you how to solve that. And I guess I've given you my best to guess at it. But what's very easy to diagnose that is up to the coaching staff to figure out is, why is this deep wide receiving room that you loved in St. Joe, why is it not coming to fruition that way in this actual season? The part about that bums me out, that bummed me out mid-thought and derailed me, is that the time to do that would have ideally been the bye week.
Mm-hmm.
That is gone.
I think that was like one of the immediate feelings that I had when the game was over was like, man, that really felt like one of those games where you're like, shit, I could use a break.
Yes, 100%.
Just came off your break.
Yep.
You know, the Chiefs are in a tough spot, man. It is abundantly clear. They've put themselves in a really, really difficult position. Honestly, so far through 10 weeks, it kind of feels like just a slow, painful realization that maybe the team just isn't that good this year. And I don't know what to make of that. I'm wrestling with it and open to any possibility. It seems like every week. These last 2 games are certainly feeling like bottoming out. I don't know what a wake-up call looks like. Before his darkness left town, we talked about, like, these 2 games against the Broncos and Colts. You're really going to know who the team is once these games are over. And, if you win them both, then you're like, holy shit, the playoff situation has completely changed. The Chiefs feel like they may be in the driver's seat, and not just in the betting markets, but like actually, if you go 1-1, then like, okay, all right, we're cooking a little bit here. We do think that the team is competitive with the upper echelon of the AFC. And if you go 0-2, and man, we don't normally get into like next week too often, but I don't know how confident I can feel about playing the Colts. I mean, we're coming home and so on and so forth, but like, what should lead me to believe that they're going to figure it out? They just played that game against Denver off a bye week. Like all of the advantages, all of the supposed advantages, it seems like they're going away. We talk. I mean, and look, and maybe not everyone is in lockstep with me, but in the course of this one episode after a Chiefs Broncos game, where maybe it's overreaction, totally fair if that's the case. But we've talked about Patrick Mahomes not really looking like Patrick Mahomes. We've talked about the special teams going from a strength to a weakness. All of these different like edges that the Chiefs used to have. In this game against the Broncos, they converted a 3rd and 15 in the fourth quarter, and the Chiefs botched a 3rd and 2. Like it just, I'm seeing all of these different things that like used to be Chiefs hallmarks, and it doesn't necessarily have to be the end of game stuff because that was just last year. But to go 0-5 in any season in all of these one-score games just feels like it's fallen apart a little bit, And
I really like, I literally wrote down the keywords here so I will remember later when I inevitably steal this from you and I can remember to give you credit and this was your conversation and not any of the other conversations I've had about this game. I really like the analogy that it feels like they are rubbing the same two sticks together, but it's not making the same spark. I think that is like poetic, beautiful, and accurate, like properly descriptive of that exact feeling you described there of like, you described talking about the sticks thing a little bit earlier. The feeling of, we'll stick at it. We'll keep doing it. Keep it rolling. We got to keep doing it. We'll tighten it up. It's never we're going to have a revolution, right? It's always we're going to tighten it up. And look, mid-season, unless you're the Giants firing your coach or what, like, literally other than teams in disaster firing their lame duck head coaches, you're not going to have a mid-season revolution. But that's a conversation we've had in a couple off seasons. It's just like, okay, so there's a lot of familiar faces here, both on the roster and in the coaching staff. How do you stay fresh as a dynasty that's playing the most important games in the sport every year? And this year, it feels like they've got two sticks that have burnt before, and they're trying to make it work again. And honestly, if you told me that Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce were going to have some real turn back the clock games down the stretch or in the first couple games of the playoffs, I'd say, yeah, of course. Yeah, you're telling me that against the Texans in the regular season or the playoffs, you're telling me that I should rule out the opportunity to have Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, and Chris Jones all play like the best versions of themselves for a game or two? No, like that's what you hang your hat on. That is their path. But that is a different place than when they had lots of other advantages in years past.
No. Well, folks, despite the fact that his darkness is not here, we do have another kind of secret hidden advantage, and that's technology. So I wanted to drop just a couple of thoughts from his darkness. And although Joshua Brisco wants to compliment me, and I am an English teacher after all, for my poetic nature, I think that you guys are going to love what you get from my friend, his darkness, who writes, I am at one of the most naturally spectacular, breathtaking places on earth. But everything to see is outside, and it's raining koalas and kiwis all day. And I'm learning that my trusty rain jacket kind of sucks. The locals are asking why I didn't bring an umbrella, but I keep saying that there's only so much room in my luggage. I'm willing to do a 4th round pick for a poncho, but probably not a 3rd for just a 1-tour rental. Also, I'm driving on the wrong side of the road with shoddy windshield wipers, and holy shit, look at that Seth geyser. What an eruption. Why can't we have more of that? Oh, and her Dirk is giving me directions, so I may have sealed my own fate. I am the 2025 Kansas City Chiefs. And so I have about a 56% chance of making it to the playoffs myself. His darkness having a wonderful time, I believe, in New Zealand and wanted to kind of take us there with him a little bit. But now let's do some sports nuts.
Oh boy. What is sports nut, huh?
Joshua, Sports Nuts, this is your first Sports Nuts experience. I will go ahead and take the wheel to set the table a bit. I'm flying to Denver tomorrow. And boy, was I looking forward to going to Denver and being able to, head to toe, full on Chiefs gear. I'm going to the National Conference for Teachers of English, and many teachers are not necessarily like outside of the school building sports fans.
Yeah.
They love to cheer on, nib high school football rules or whatever. But generally speaking, outside the building, it's not necessarily always a big celebration. But boy, the teachers in Kansas City love the Chiefs because the parade always gives us days off. So that's fun. With that being said, I was still very, very excited to be wearing all the red that I could possibly muster, including, yes, Zuba's, one of my calling cards. And I don't know. What is it like to wear your team's colors on the road in the city you just lost in, but later that week? Like, they're Broncos fans, they're on the bye. They could not be feeling themselves any more than the biggest divisional win that they've had in at least 10 years. 10 years it's been since they've played a game that big and won it. And now I'm considering walking around that town with Chiefs gear on. I don't think I can do it. I don't know if I can.
I have one path for you, but I'm thinking I've given this some thought. First of all, I wouldn't begrudge anybody for not wanting to be a human billboard for a rival team in a rival city. Like, I think I'm not going to shame anybody for going that route of saying, I'm just going to wear, black or whatever. So I don't think that's a terrible thing if you do go that direction. This is the hardest single time in literally a decade to wear Chiefs gear in Denver. You've literally nailed it. It's terrible. It's
the only time in the last decade I wouldn't want to do it. Like, and it's literally like this week. If it was last week, who gives a shit? If it's next week, I honestly don't care. But like, coming off the loss,
it does seem like you're lining up to be degraded.
I'm so mad.
I think your one and only option is that you pack some Super Bowl championship gear.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think you can kind of big picture scoreboard on. Look at, you're wearing Chiefs gear. Didn't you see what Bo Nix did to you last week? And you can just look at your shirt and just say, it says back-to-back Super Bowl champions. Why does that say that? That's crazy. This was like 2 years ago. But you are also inevitably, even from well-meaning people, and frankly, this is the hardest. Well-meaning people, if I've said it once, I've said it a million times. Well-meaning people are the worst. Please, let's clip back into your social clip for today. The problem, I think, is well-meaning people who go, oh, tough loss. Yeah, we got Bo Nix. We're pretty good. What's wrong with you guys? Because as soon as that happens, what's wrong with you guys? You can't get out of that conversation soon enough, and there's not an easy path out. And I don't know the answer. We've been doing this show for an hour and 10 bleeping minutes, and we haven't answered the question of what's wrong with you guys. I don't know. A few things. They're a good football team that in a world with like 25 good football teams, or by the Tucker D. Franklin ass list, 25 teams who are ass. It's all really a matter of what color your glasses are. I think you can, and maybe you should pack at least one garment that is specifically celebrating a Super Bowl more recent than one that the Broncos have been able to celebrate. Mm-hmm. And by doing that, I think you can at least say, yeah, it's been an unbelievable 9 years of dominating this division. This sure is weird. I guess we'll see what happens. And even that's like a little, you can at least threaten them that way. You say, oh yeah, I guess we'll see how it goes in the playoffs, and just stay optimistic. Or you can just sort of fall on it and go, yeah, no, this has been kind of a pain. But I don't know. Do you want to trade quarterbacks? I bet you do, and I don't. So talk to you later. These are my
I appreciate your quips. I will actually still be in Denver for Chiefs Colts. So, I mean, cool. Naturally, I'm going to have some Chiefs gear for that one. My flight home isn't until well after Chiefs Colts on Sunday. But if you're out there and you need to commiserate with a fellow Chiefs fan, I will be in downtown Denver Wednesday through Sunday. And I'm trying to figure out where I'm going to watch the game. So if you guys know me on Twitter, Blue Sky, or whatever, you can try to reach out, and I would love to find a place to watch Chiefs Colts on Sunday. Joshua, I'm also going to Meow Wolf Denver. I did Meow Wolf in Santa Fe after I graduated college, and now I'm going to Denver for the first time since Meow Wolf opened there, and I'm very excited for that.
Very exciting.
Have you been to the one in Denver?
No, Renee and I did the one in Santa Fe like a year and change ago now, and it was spectacular. It has been weirdly informative on a lot of things that Renee and I have made since then. It's kind of been like almost clarifying that way, just in terms of like, either in her case, like art in the way that you would think about it, and in my case, art by art, I mean podcasting. And so I really do think back on that constantly. I'm curious about this place in Kansas City that opened up recently. I haven't been there yet either. It's not Meow Wolf, but it's very Meow Wolfy. And so if anybody listening to this has been any big fans amateur hour, wants to, I don't know, hook up your boys, I don't know, we'd go. But I am, and a friend of mine, I think she worked at the Denver Meow Wolf for like a special event for like a month or something like that. So I've heard many good things. I would love to go to that one, and frankly to the one in Vegas. I will sign up for any Meow Wolf experiences that as they come now, because I didn't know about them at all until we went to the one in Santa Fe, and it's just like so extraordinarily my shit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think it's going to get me out of my head in a good way.
Yes. So. Oh God, if it doesn't, you did something wrong, man. I know.
All right.
And Ryan, you're going to be in Denver. I mean, you've got so many options. Not that you don't hear the beautiful state of Missouri, but you have a ton there.
True. Did you prepare sports nuts this week, Joshua? I feel like I mentioned it to you. Did I not? Yeah.
You did indeed. And what I would like to invite people into, and as this show is being produced by producer extraordinaire Nick Springer, Nick is very aware of this because he is literally locked into, as he clarifies every time so adequately, so importantly, he is locked in a padded room with me for about 10 hours every Chiefs game day. And so I figured as you're looking for ways to enjoy Chiefs Colts in Denver, I'll bring people into the Chiefs Radio Network studio that Nick and I share on game days, because I, in a twist that has really benefited me and I think would benefit a lot of Chiefs fans, I simply don't hear the TV broadcast ever anymore, because of several reasons. The most obvious, of course, is that I'm on the Chiefs Radio Network. So Mitch Holthus is on the play-by-play. Don't know if you've heard of him. This young up-and-comer, man, he's good at what he does. And Danon Hughes in the booth with him, Josh Klingler on the sidelines. They do a fantastic job. So I'm listening to that broadcast because I'm a part of it, and we're taking notes and cutting highlights and all of these things that are all very reliant, on starting with the radio broadcast. But because we are hearing the like straight line feed, we hear the radio call out of the program feed. Thank you, Nick. We're hearing the program feed, and so we're getting the actual play-by-play from Mitch Holthus 15, 20 seconds, 30 seconds in some cases before we see it on our first TV. We have a TV that is satellite that will then show the play 20 seconds or so after Mitch has called it in our headphones. And then I can see the play there. And then on a second TV, cable, I think, we see a 5 or 6 second delayed further visual there. And so I hear how the play goes, described by one of the best to ever do it. Then I see it in what becomes essentially a replay. I see it again in a second replay, and I feel like it is an unbelievable, and also all while taking notes and doing things and preparing for scoreboard updates and the halftime show and all of that. It is an incredibly chaotic way to follow a Chiefs game, but in some instances, I get to live experience each play 3 times, and it's a fascinating way to go about these things. And as Nick says, by the time you're seeing the play the second time, Mitch is describing the next play. So there's conflict there. This thing moves. We do not have a play clock for radio and TV. And if I can be a company man and encouraging this way, I really think that every Chiefs fan would have a better time if they took the extra step to try to sync the radio call with their TV within reason. Because I haven't heard some of my dear friends in the radio and the TV booth, who I don't necessarily love the poetic waxings of. I don't hear any of them anymore, and that's been good for me on a few levels.
Yeah. So random follow-up was, I mean, I'm sure it was listed in like a soft skills section of the job description or whatever, but like, was the ability to multitask like that and work through the distractions while also, needing to use them to your advantage and take note, like, is that part of the discussion when you're applying for this job? Because there are a lot of people who would be amazing on radio that simply could not do that part of it.
Yeah, I honestly had never even considered that for a second, Ryan. I don't that is no, it was not brought up that way. I guess because I have hosted lots of other Chiefs post-game shows, there is a familiarity to that kind of like live watching, reading, reacting kind of deal. But the extra levels of radio, TV, play-by-play and all of that all mixed up. I think, again, Nick just said in the chat, it's like one of those things you can't really prepare for till you've experienced it. I did have the benefit of experiencing a version of that, a similar version of that for almost the entire Patrick Mahomes era, like 6 or 7 years before. Good God, I've been doing this longer than it feels like. I guess that's how it goes. But there is just something to it where I'd like to think that someone in the hiring cycle is like, well, Josh has done some of this before, and he has the vibe of someone who can pay attention to 8 things at a time and hopefully remember it. But man, I mean, sometimes I don't know. You just gotta take a couple of notes here and there and hope it reminds you, it kicks your brain in the direction you're trying to kick your brain into. I do. Here's the sick thing, and I would hate for anyone to know this. I do enjoy that. I do enjoy the chaos. Sometimes I was like, I could do without the chaos for a few minutes. Like, it would be nice to have, just like a 5-minute, nobody does anything kind of break. That would be nice. But man, it does. There's an adrenaline to it, I think, where sometimes I'm like driving home at night after the show. Oh, I'll tell you, there have been some sleepier drives after the losses. But sometimes you're driving home after and just like, man, like I am overstimulated and I need to get home and it's like Scott Hansen talks about this. I want to get home and put on 6 TVs to lull me to sleep. But I should probably like read a book. I think that would probably be good for my brain at this point.
I'm picturing the male guy in Men in Black that has like 1 million arms and is listening to Metallica, and it's doing all the silent when they like open the door in the post office. Oh, that's Nick.
What Nick is doing. Yes, that's absolutely that is a perfect example of what Nick is doing during this entire thing. And he's got multiple, we've got the program feed with Mitch doing the thing, and then Nick will sometimes have to go in and cut up the highlights, and he's playing back a highlight, and then we've got all the rest of the crew there I didn't know Nick loved Metallica. Look at that. The analogy never stops. Mm-hmm. It is a beautiful, beautiful bit of chaos. And I assume, I don't know if Nick would agree with this or not. I would assume that the in-game production, which is largely being handled in another studio down the hall and on the premises wherever the game is, that seems even more chaotic to me. And so maybe Nick and I have just got our little cubby hole that we were able to hang out in for 10 hours, and it becomes comforting in its own incredibly, incredibly chaotic, uncomfortable way.
Well, Joshua, very informative, unique sports nuts. I feel like I've just, got to see behind a curtain that that's pretty rare to be able to.
Never meant to see this.
I know.
You are supposed to see and you're supposed to eat the sausage. You are not supposed to see how any of it gets made. But that, honestly, and this is going to sound like I'm just being kind for whatever reason, and especially because Nick's here, but it's not. I would rather say this without Nick here, frankly. Everybody at the Chiefs Radio Network has been doing that job, whatever their job is. Everyone's been doing their job longer than I have because I'm the new guy. And it is just like such a quintessentially professional organization. not in like a big scary way of everyone's very. I've never seen anyone in a suit, but like everyone just is very good at knowing how it's supposed to go. They've done it a bunch of times. One of the producers out at the stadium, he celebrated his 600th broadcast this year, which was like, hold on, how long have you been doing? And then he asked us to stop asking how long he'd been doing it. But like that is the level of like professionalism behind the scenes. And so I do feel very lucky to be able to be the monkey on the microphone for post game, reaping the rewards of all the very good work everyone else has done.
Man, that's like 30 years. It's got to be, if you're doing like 20 games a year or so, at least Chiefs broadcast, man, that's impressive. All right. Well, I'm going to put a bow on this thing with the final word. I told you guys I was going to have a final word.
Yeah, we get your big thing. You guys are finally going to tell us your big thing.
My little thing at the end, I guess.
It's about how you deliver it.
Yeah, right. Well, look, first I do want to say thank you, Joshua, for being here. You have been a friend and a colleague and a supporter for so long, and I'm just very grateful to get to talk to you.
Thank you for having me. I very much enjoyed. I'm going to talk about you guys now because you said a nice thing about me, and I'm just going to say that I love that you and Dirk have been a fixture in this community and fan base for 400 years, I think. You have been doing this longer than almost anyone in this space, and I think it is so wonderful that we get to operate on the same KCSN team, and I think it's awesome that you guys go away in the off season. I think that's so sweet.
I feel very fortunate that nobody misses us when we're gone. I will say for my final word, here's the reality. The Chiefs are in playoff mode from now until the end of the season. If they have it, whatever it is, they better find it quick because their margin for error is essentially non-existent at this point. Now, I think the silver lining in all of this is the fact that the Chiefs will be, battle tested, forged in fire if they make the playoffs. And realistically, they'd be the most dangerous 7 seed of all time.
Right.
But my fear is that they're already exhausted and going on one of these patented Andy Reid runs of 5 or 6 wins in a row simply may not be possible with the 2025 Chiefs. Fortunately, they only have to play 1 week at a time. So let's see how they do against the Colts and talk about that one. And then see who they do against whoever up next on the schedule and talk about that one. And 1 week at a time, chip away at this thing. And as they say, accept the challenge each week, try to get 1% better. And I think they might need to get some bigger chunks than 1% at a time. But I also, as much as I feel fortunate for Joshua to have joined us, I also feel fortunate that I get to see Patrick Mahomes with his back against the wall in a way that it's never been before. And so if this guy can rise and meet the moment, if he has that in him this year, we know he has it in him, period. If he can get into that well and pull out the stuff that they need to get where they're trying to go, the rest of this season is going to be maybe the funnest that we've ever had because of where they're at. They've put themselves in a really difficult spot. So it could be great. Or we could just see more of the same and have to, lick our wounds and try to regather things in the offseason. We'll see. But this has been another episode of Amateur Hour. I'm Ryan Scott Hall. He is Joshua Brisco. His Dirkness will be back from New Zealand. And I don't know, sometime, but I believe he will be on the next episode against the Colts, barring any unforeseen changes. So yeah, that's it. Go Chiefs. That's all I got. Thanks, Josh.
Thanks, Ryan.